today we'll be talking about the use of multiple institution configurations in mTree. In particular, we'll go over how you can update your simulation configurations to allow for multiple institutions. We'll also go over how you can actually access the additional institutions you've created from the environment and then distribute it throughout your MES as you see fit. So obviously before beginning, there's a code update involved in this, so you will need to pull down the latest copy of the develop branch and then reinstall mTree, and you should have access to all the additional features described here. Previously, as you might have known, the JSON configurations you've used for simulations have used the institution property, so singular, and obviously that would let you set up a single institution inside your MES. But if you want to have multiple institutions, you need some other capability. So what we've done is we've added an institutions property for your JSON configuration that will allow you to input as many institutions as you'd like, and then they get injected into the MES at the environment, and then you can send that information around. So in order to have multiple institutions, you will need to switch around the JSON configuration, and you'll switch from having an institution property to an institutions property, plural. That'll end up being a hash, or I'm sorry, it's a key, and then the value of it will be an array, and inside of each of that array, each element will be a dictionary, which will have institution as the key, and then the value will be the name of the class you'll use. So in this example you see here, we would add this to the JSON configuration. We would add institutions, and then we'd have a dictionary, and in this case we have two institutions, so we have basic institution and basic institution 2. And so using this configuration we'd be able to run this and have access to multiple institutions. So once the MES gets spawned, the environment will be told about each institution that will be in the MES, and so at present you will access the institutions from inside the environment. And so in this case, inside the environment, you'll have self.institutions, and then you'll have you'll index it here, so it'll start at 0, kind of as you see currently in the code, and then it'll go up to however many institutions you have. So if you have 2 institutions, the first one would be 0, and the second one would be number 1. Later on, we'll probably change it to use names as well. So once you have this institution available inside the environment, you can in fact distribute it to the agents and what have you. So if you use the mTree examples repository, you can look at the MES example 3, which has been updated to include multiple institutions. So from the configuration file, you can look at the multi-institution simulation.json, and you will see an example of a configuration with multiple institutions. So in this case, in the first one, it's institutions, and then as expected, there's an array, and there are 2 institutions listed, institution, basic institution, and then institution, basic institution 2. So obviously the institutions themselves don't necessarily need to be aware of each other, and so what happens is these will get injected into the environment. So if you look inside the environment, at least in this instance, when we say we start the auction, the environment has been made aware of both institutions, and they are available in the self.institutions property, which is a list of institutions starting at 0. So in this instance, you can find out that we're going to send a message to the first institution to tell it to start the auction. And then in this case, again, we don't have to do it this way, but we can also tell the second institution to be, register for collateral. And so in this case, also with the second, actually with both of these messages to the institutions in this MES, we send them a list of the agents that are known to the system. So if you look inside the institution, register for collateral, you'll see here that the institution has been told of the agents, and what it's telling them to do is to become aware of them as this institution as something like a collateral registration institution. So when you go to the agent itself, it now has a directive for register for collateral, which is right here. And what this does is it simply says, I'd like to know what the collateral institution is. So now the agent is aware of this second institution. And so what happens is at the end of the auction, when it's been told the auction result by the first institution, here it will go through and it will log the information received, but then it will also send a message to that second institution using the self.collateralinsitution.my address in this case, right? Because you need the address of the institution you'll be sending to. It will have that, and then it will send a message to the institution, the second institution, in this case register collateral, and you will see right here that it will log at the experimental data level collateral request received. Running these multiple institutions is similar as before. So you'll run them as you would with the mTree runner. In this case, we run it just as before. Then what we can do is switch over to either the log, which will have a variety of information, or we can actually look at the experimental data log. And in this instance, what we can see is we get the same type of information as before. And in this case, we're seeing the collateral requests come in from the agents themselves. Which, if you recall, is at the end of the experiment after all the agents have gotten the information on the status of their auction. So again, it's fairly simple to use this. You can kind of quickly create multiple institutions in your MES and send messages around.